Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. So I want to break down the new trailer slash preview that we got. It's basically a trailer because we got a lot of footage that hypes up the season here because the season is in 3 days from now and it's about 3 minutes of brand new footage. But it's also a preview as well because, you have some of the actors talking about the season in general and it's just really cool. There's a lot of new scenes in here. I was not expecting all the stuff that we got. So yeah, I want to break down everything shot for shot here. And let's get into this. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my walking content like this. I will be posting a Last of Us Season 2 trailer breakdown later on today, so stay tuned for that. The trailer came out for that earlier this morning, so I will be doing a trailer breakdown for that later on today at some point. There's a lot to break down with The Last of Us. We got a lot of first looks at certain characters, and so yeah, I want to get into that because obviously The Last of Us is a show I will be covering a lot when the show does air. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about with that. There's a lot of first looks at newer characters and whatnot, so just expect that trailer breakdown to be out later on today. But let's get into this here. So obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my walking content. Daryl Dixon Season 2 is going to be premiering here in just 3 days now, so it's very, very close. A lot to talk about here, and we got our first preview here for the season here, and this trailer starts off with a shot of the nest, and then it cuts to a shot of Daryl. I guess he just arrived here, and you see Laurent, I guess, running up to him, and so at this point here, maybe he's already saved everybody from, Madame Genet's truck, because Madame Genet had a lot of people in her truck, and they were going to, I don't know where they were going, I guess probably her base. But Daryl and a bunch of other people obviously went there, and they did save a lot of people, and I'm assuming that's what this is related to. This is probably episode 1 or episode 2, somewhere around there, but they just made it back, and so Laurent obviously was probably concerned about Daryl, and so yeah, goes to see Daryl here, right? And then a lot of the beginning here is just set up for the season. It's a lot of stuff that we've talked about for a while, but we then see Norman Reedus talking about this season and talking about just how amazing and just crazy this season is going to be. And we see this brand new shot here of Ash and Carol. It's a nighttime shot, and I'm assuming that this is when they're in America before they leave to France, right? So they're outside here. There's an explosion going off. I'm not entirely sure why there's an explosion. It looks like they're expecting it, though. So I don't know if they're trying to do it to attract some of the walkers to go in that location while they, go on the plane and then eventually go to France. A lot of the dialogue in this trailer in terms of Carol and Ash's storyline anyways is honestly it's cool because they talk about the idea that this is actually kind of crazy what they're trying to do. Like, what we're going to take a plane and go to France. Like, this sounds absolutely insane. And so I do like how realistic they make that seem, and obviously probably watching it, it's going to feel like that, right? Like, it's going to feel like this doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, how is Carol actually going to get to France, via a plane? And obviously somehow it's going to work. But I like what Ash actually says in this scene because he's like, well, we're not communicating with anybody. We have no idea where we're going. Like, we can kind of see, I guess, roughly where we're going to land, but we have no idea, kind of how we're landing or just like what the area is like. Like, we're literally just going there, and like, this could be really bad, right? And Carol basically just says, yeah, it's sort of her only option. And so I think for her, she's just really hoping that Ash is going to be like, okay, let's go kind of thing, right? But I think that it would be so unrealistic to expect Ash to just be like, yeah, all right, let's go. Like, unless Ash is just in a place where he's like, you know what, I don't really have a lot to live for right now. Like, I'm just kind of here by myself. And you know what, I might as well help somebody do something here because I'm not really doing anything here. And, I think that's also reason enough. I think if that is the reason why he helps Carol, that makes a lot of sense as well. So I think Ash helping out Carol in any way like that, I think would be really cool. But we have this one shot of Carol, and this is obviously when her and Daryl are in the vehicle here and all the zombies are around them, and the zombie actually breaks through this window here. So I don't know if this is just like a normal zombie or if this is one of the variant walkers. I have no idea, but I do think that the variant is gonna kill a bunch of the walkers all around the car, and so that's sort of what we're seeing here. And yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know what to expect from this scene. I just think the scene is gonna be absolutely crazy, and that's the one thing that I've learned from watching the trailer anyways, is that I think this season is gonna be very action-packed. Like, there's going to be so much happening in every single episode. It's going to feel like a movie, literally, in every single episode. And it's because it's ending the arc here, right? Like, I'm assuming it's going to end the arc anyways for the France storyline, because obviously we know they're going to Spain for season 3. There could still be story elements that continue from season 2 to 3. But I think for the most part, a lot of the Pouvoir storyline, a lot of the bigger characters and whatnot, their stories will end here. And so I think that's why there's going to be a ton of action this season. I think there's going to be so much happening in like every single episode here. I mean, honestly, like the newer shots look really incredible. Greg Nicotero also talks about a lot of this here as well. He talks about, the story for Carol this season and really getting into Carol's mindset. We have a really amazing shot here of Carol and Ash and the plane here that they take to get to France. And so, I mean, obviously at this point here, they haven't left yet. I'm assuming that, at the end of episode 1, they are going to arrive in France. And then we'll have to see what happens to the plane. Is the plane destroyed right away? Are they able to take the plane back to America? We'll have to wait and see. But then we have this shot right here of a bunch of walkers. A really cool shot here of Carol. I don't think this is in France. This looks like it's in America. So I'm assuming Ash is outside somewhere and sort of just wondering who he is in general, because obviously Carol is going to try and figure out who he is exactly, because obviously she's not gonna, just like go with some random person, right? Like she's going to make sure that he is who he says he is, right? And so I think, yeah, she's just trying to figure that out here. And then, yeah, we have the showrunner here, David Isabelle, talking about Carol and her story, and we get a pretty big reveal here of Sophia. And so I thought that this would be a bigger reveal in the episode, but they're kind of just revealing it here like in the show. I imagine a lot of it is just to promote the season, to really excite a lot of fans to watch the show, right? And so yeah, we have Carol. Obviously, this looks like it's in America. This seems to be when she's with Ash, or she's at Ash's place. And so she's looking around, she's seeing bodies, and I guess she sees like a barn or something. And if you look, you can actually see Sophia starting to walk outside the barn. And so obviously Carol is starting to hallucinate here and starting to see Sophia. And so Sophia actually walks out of the barn, which is absolutely insane. And so Carol is actually seeing her. Like, Carol is actually seeing Sophia, and that's going to really mess with her. And I do wonder how her reaction is afterwards. Like, how does she react to that hallucination? Because it's probably the first time she's having it. And so, is she immediately crying afterwards? Is she immediately panicking? Like, what is her immediate reaction afterwards? And obviously it is very related to Daryl, because there was a mention from, I think, Melissa McBride or Norman Reedus. I don't know who mentioned it, or maybe it was Gimple or Nicotero. I have no idea who mentioned it, but there was a mention of the fact that Carol has known Daryl since basically Sophia's death, and that really makes, her bond with Daryl very special, because she knew Daryl from, the last, I guess, couple of weeks or whatever it was of Sophia's life. And so, when everyone else just sort of stopped. And so I think that, Carol, she senses that something's wrong with Daryl, and I think that she's just starting to feel a little bit concerned, I guess, at the Commonwealth. And I think that's why she goes out to find him, because she senses like something's off here. This feels too familiar to what happened with Sophia, because even back then in season 2, she knew what happened. Like, she was probably the most realistic about everything. And I think that there was a lot of trauma there that, again, she's being reminded of now that Daryl is so far away. She feels like, oh, maybe she's about to lose Daryl. And so now she's starting to get reminded of the way she felt when Sophia went missing. And I think, honestly, in terms of writing, that's just absolutely incredible. That's the perfect place to start with a season 2. But yeah, then we have this really cool shot of Carol here looking at the zombies behind this glass door. This really reminds me of season 1 of The Walking Dead, or at least the earlier seasons of The Walking Dead, because there was a lot of shots of characters in buildings, like behind glass doors and whatnot, and then eventually they would just like break through and all that. So yeah, really cool to actually see that here. And then we have this shot here of Carol actually climbing up in I guess the greenhouse here, and she actually breaks the window on top, or the glass on top, and climbs through that way, I guess. Honestly, I did not see the sequence playing out this way. We saw a shot of Carol in this place earlier, but I thought she was just going to kill the walkers and eventually get out. But actually, this is a very cool sequence here. If she's actually trapped here in the greenhouse, and the only way for her to get out is actually climbing through the ceiling here and having to break the glass here, so she has to like climb up. Like, this is amazing. This is classic zombie stuff. Like, you always need scenes like this, and I always love scenes like this, because that's one of the things with The Walking Dead in terms of writing a story, and you're writing all these bigger storylines with like all these bigger characters. You have to remember some of the basic stuff that I think is always so important to have in every season, in every episode if you can, which is like a scary walker scene that actually is scary. And I know sometimes it's not going to be like that, because obviously you can't, keep it scary all the time, but always try your best, always try to make it a little more interesting. And I feel like a scene like this is something that we've never really seen before, because the environment is different. And yeah, I'm really excited for this scene here. This is probably going to happen in episode 1. Some cool shots here of Carol and Ash actually trying to to get inside the plane here. So yeah, Carol's concerned. She actually says at one point that she's never been in a plane. So yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Little details like that, honestly, I really do like stuff like that, because you learn little things about the characters, right? Like Carol pre-apocalypse was never in a plane. Obviously, post-apocalypse, she was never going to be in a plane, but it's just really interesting to think that the character was never in a plane before that, right? And it's just kind of interesting to think about for Carol and what her life was like back then. But yeah, then we get this shot here of Daryl, and it looks like this is when he first enters, I guess, that laboratory or whatever it's called. I keep calling it that, but I don't think that's what that is. Maybe it is, but he's in this place here anyways with the bioluminescent walkers. And yeah, I just thought it was kind of a cool scene, because Daryl looks like he's like wondering, what is this place? And then we have this shot here of Carol, and she's looking at a map. We also have this shot here of Daryl and Laurent and Lo Sang here as well. And so yeah, this is probably from episode 1, I'm assuming. And then a very interesting sequence here with Daryl, Laurent, and Isabelle. And obviously we've seen some of this before from the Comic-Con trailer, but we actually see a lot of how this scene plays out here. So Daryl throws the ball here at Laurent, and then obviously he hits the ball, so they're playing baseball or whatever. And yeah, it's just sort of a happy family moment. And that's how you know that it's going to end very badly here, because they're having a moment like this, and that's just classic for The Walking Dead. Like, you have happy moments like this, and it's just stuff to look back on, and you're like, oh, this is when things were really good, and then now things are going to get really bad, right? So I do imagine that Isabelle's probably going to die, and that's one of the things I was thinking about. So first of all, it does seem like Daryl and Isabelle are probably going to be a thing. I really feel like that's really going to happen this season. And so I think that when Isabelle dies, it's really going to destroy Daryl, because I feel like, you know, she means a lot to him. And I think that for Laurent as well, it's going to completely destroy him. And it's going to put a lot of pressure on Daryl to really take care of Laurent, because now Laurent's by himself, right? And so I really feel like Isabelle is going to die at some point this season, probably episode 3 or 4. I'm assuming episode 4, just based off of a lot of people saying that episode 4 is a really emotional episode. And I just think that it's going to be something that is insane, right? Like, I think the scene is going to build up, and to see Isabelle die and to see Daryl completely heartbroken and everything, I think it's just going to be, it's going to be sad. It's going to be very tragic. And then just where does the story go after that, you know, for Laurent? And that's one of those things that if they do kill Isabelle off here, I hope that Laurent is a character in season 3. I think that if he's not a character in season 3, that's definitely a pretty big mistake in my opinion, depending on where they go with the story. But I just feel like, obviously, you want characters from season 2 to be around in season 3. Like, you want Daryl to sort of almost form a new group here, right? And so, if Isabelle's gone, like, I don't know where Laurent would go, right? Like, if Laurent stays at the nest, I feel like that would go against everything that Daryl is fighting for this season, right? Because he's trying to fight for Laurent to be, you know, I guess, happy and whatnot. And a lot of what the nest wants for him. Obviously, there's big disagreements this season. We're going to learn that. And I just think that leaving him behind would just be a mistake unless he dies. Like, that's kind of the way I see it. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see where season 3 goes here, and where, obviously, I guess, ultimately where season 2 goes in the finale, because Laurent is in a very scary situation here, because everybody wants him to be the next Messiah, and so he's dealing with a lot of that. He's dealing with all this pressure here to be like this or like that, and I just think that, you know, he has this connection with Daryl right now, and just like the actor who plays Laurent, he actually says here in the preview that he sees Daryl as like a father figure, right? So I think that's likely where they're going here. So I just don't think Daryl can really leave Laurent behind, but yeah, then we get to some really cool stuff here. And I really do think that this scene here is going to be basically the governor scene, but times like a million, because we see Madame Genet and her people literally kill a bunch of people. This was very similar to the season 3 finale with the governor, where the governor just killed a bunch of people that he was with, right? Like, just killed a bunch of people. But the thing that's going to be way more amazing about this scene here in season 2 of Daryl Dixon is that Madame Genet is going to turn all of them into variant walkers here, because we see all of them starting to run. So this is just absolutely crazy, right? And again, Madame Genet as a villain is just, she's so amazing. Like, she's scary, but she's just an outright villain. Like, she is just pure evil. And so to see this scene here, I think however it plays out, it's going to be absolutely insane. I really cannot wait. And then we get this one shot here of Daryl, and it looks like he's with a bunch of other characters. And this might be where Daryl actually sees the bioluminescent walkers, just because of this sign right here. It kind of makes sense to me. Like it says, stop, checkpoint, headlights off, and ID cards and access passes to be shown. So it's something that might be related to the old government. I don't know. There's something here that is very, very curious though. And the fact that I mean, I think that the bioluminescent walkers are going to be in this scene here. I'm excited to see a lot more of the explanation behind, I guess, the origins of them, or just what this means overall for The Walking Dead. So yeah, it seems like they're getting into some of that here. But yeah, really cool shot here of Cadron as well. Obviously, we've seen a lot of shots of him in a similar place like this. So yeah, really cool. And then we have this walker here that's in a wheelchair, and I don't know who this character is, but yeah, this is a really creepy scene though. I can't wait to see this. And then we see a bunch of super walkers chasing this vehicle here. And so I'm assuming that the vehicle is actually leading them to a very specific place. And I wonder if it is the nest, because we know that the variant walkers eventually attack the nest. And so that seems to be what they're doing here, is they created a bunch of super walkers, and now they're leading them to the nest. And so this is going to be probably a battle that's going to be absolutely insane, and I just really cannot wait to see. And then we get this last shot here of Daryl and Isabelle. So I didn't think that Isabelle was also held captive as well. I thought that Isabelle was, I guess, somewhere else. But yeah, it looks like Isabelle was also taken captive here. A lot of people were taken captive, it seems like Daryl, Isabelle, I think Lo Sang as well. I don't know if Laurent was. Laurent might be somewhere else, but it seems like a lot of people are going to be taken captive. And so we have Daryl and Isabelle together. And I do think that it makes sense that they are going to be a thing this season, and I do think that Isabelle is likely going to die, and it's going to be one of those things that is, again, just absolutely, I think, heartbreaking for everybody. And yeah, just seeing this scene here, I just feel bad for Daryl, like I really do. But then we get this shot here of Carol, and I really wonder, I mean, it looks like she's actually going to be a part of the scene here, where she's actually with the group of people that get shot at. So I wonder if Carol just somehow survives. She actually ends up on the ground, and then she notices that everybody is sort of getting shot with like the serum that turns you into a super walker. And so Carol is like reacting to this, because it looks like Madame Genet is watching it happen to everybody. And then I'm assuming that Carol is going to really witness here what is happening with all the super walkers. And then I guess that's why Carol ends up on a horse, I'm assuming, because she's escaping the situation, right? And then maybe she's going to go warn everybody at the nest what is happening. And yeah, I mean, obviously Carol's going to be saving everybody here in that moment, if that is what happens here, right? So really crazy trailer here, really crazy preview. There's so much to talk about. I'm gonna be doing another video breaking down a lot of this, but some of the newer information, so stay tuned for that. That should be out later on today. There's character portraits. There's a lot of stuff that came out yesterday, and I didn't get to all of it. So yeah, but definitely let me know all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.